everybody. Welcome back to the show, the I Buy Belize video property show. We've got a full lineup today of not just properties and insights, but we also have a very special guest, Ryan Robel, an attorney who's also an expat, who's going to share some of the things that you need to understand about moving down to Belize and also protecting yourself and your assets. Well, without further ado, I'd like to introduce my friend, my co-host, someone who I'm sure that you already know and love, Macarena Rose.
Oh my goodness, you have me dancing with the music. I like when that's playing. It makes me happy.
Yeah. So how are you today?
I'm doing good, but you know that happiness and the happy Thursday makes it a beautiful day. I'm so glad people can join us. We're really having fun with this. We hope you're really enjoying it. Most of all, getting great information, right? But in a manner that's not boring. Who wants boring, right? We're in Belize.
I know, and I find that every time we do something, right, whether it's working with a customer or it's having a conversation or just working on some marketing piece, we always try to say, well, how do we make it better, right? How do we make that one little thing better? How do we make it easier for contact? How do we make that information more accessible? And I'm so glad that you're committed and also share that same philosophy.
Of course. Yeah. And I think a lot of it is that, we're always fine tuning things, but Belize is really fascinating because ever since I moved, I learned, oh, we don't just like, for example, it doesn't work, throw it away. And that's like a consumerism thing, right? So literally in Belize, we'll figure out, okay, how do we fix it? How do we make it better? And there are ways to, every time improve, right? For sure. But sometimes the imperfection also gives you the benefit of living somewhere different. Like we talked about last week, if you go to the grocery store, you may not find the 7 different types of rice you want, but you're going to have 1 or 2 and it's going to be perfect, right? No worries.
I have to tell you a story. So last week I was in San Pedro Island, right? And so I visited this fruit stand. It's Miss Gote's fruit stand. To call it the most affordable grocery on San Pedro. And so we did this little recording about all the different fruits that's available because people just don't know, right? People don't know what food is available and also what the prices are. So I think that's something we also have to do, right? And so we're not just selling real estate, we're not selling homes, we're selling the community and living here.
Yeah, it's a big difference. And it is completely different because like if you live in the States or in Canada, you know what province you want, or you live in the States, you know what county you want. And you know what that already looks like. And Belize is completely diverse. For example, jungle like behind you, or the ocean, for example, on San Pedro, and or do you want to be near the ruins, right? Is that important to you? What do you really want around you? So it is diverse. Yeah, you got a good point there, Doug.
Well, let's talk about listings, right? Because I think that a lot of people are trying to evaluate, which district they want to live in Belize. Do they want the island life? Do they want the inland life? How much a property is actually selling for? Would you mind pulling up real quickly? I know it might take you a second, but would you mind pulling up some listings that we can take a look at that would be maybe found in San Pedro versus in Cayo?
So, absolutely. So, one of the things that we can look at specifically is, whether it's land, we can just say any. Let's go down to what did you say? San Pedro, right? Now, not to be confused, San Pedro is part of Ambergris Caye. So, Ambergris Caye is the whole island, and San Pedro is the town. And so, if you remember the song Madonna sang, La Isla Bonita San Pedro, there you go. Now you know where it came from. So, we're just going to go to search here. And then we go down to here. And there's lots of different opportunities. A lot of people want to buy a piece of land. Well, they say buy dirt. Gary Keller said that, buy dirt, put it in the ground. You know where your money is. I call it land banking. Your money is in the dirt. And so here's like 2 examples for this is almost 9/10 of an acre for $295 right on the ocean. And then here's a lot that is
Wait, 295 for a lot on the ocean?
Well, yeah, but it's almost an acre. Seriously, it's almost an acre. You could never in Florida, you couldn't even get a little tiny 1/6 of an acre for that. So then there's also choices like, if we stick with land, Here's a lot for sale in Amargus Key in the Secret Beach area. And the Secret Beach area is on the actual west side of the island in northern area. And for $40,000, you literally have a house lot. You can have a house built on. You can wait till later, till you retire, or you want to do that later. Here's another 1 acre parcel, 125. Now it's just off of the sea. But let's face it, it's an island. There's water on both sides. So there's really not a bad spot.
Well, and I think also too, there's maybe a misunderstanding of what the true cost of building are, right? Because when you build on an island, it's not like you're building on the mainland, right? You have to fill in the dirt, you have to, dig it out, you have to establish the footings correctly.
True. But it completely will depend contingent really on where it's located. So if it's in an area that needs fill, some areas don't need any fill at all, right? And based on like the size of it. So if you have like an acre property, a lot of people will just build on one part of it and then later on decide to subdivide the other lots and give it to family members. Not a bad idea. Or sell them and basically pay for the whole 1 acre you bought. Not a bad idea. This parcel is actually perfect for that. This lot here specifically does not come with the dog, by the way, even though it's a cute dog. But it is located in an area that is ideal to get you situated right away to have something to build on. And again, building costs are going to be different on the island than they are on the mainland. And you want to use a reputable builder, but that's why we have a good network of people to share with you those contacts.
No, that's really great. And I think also too, some of the questions we've been getting as far as buying here is understanding what the process is of going through building, right? Like how long it really takes. And that's not so much the time to construct, but also the paperwork that has to be filled out, right? To get yourself approved. If you're investing in that transaction, what paperwork does the attorney need to procure or help advise on?
Very important to have a professional that has a fiduciary responsibility to you as the buyer to make sure that they're looking out for your best interests. Are they making sure that, are they going back to root title to make sure every transaction that was done, the transfer of the property was done correctly. So therefore your transfer will be solid. I can't stress how important that is ahead of time. The only way to do it right is to do it right the first time. Period.
Well, gosh, I mean, when you think about the things that you've seen in the market, right? Things, properties gone wild, right?
That's its own show.
Or,
It
or,
is its own show, for goodness sakes. Yes, that's true.
or sellers gone wild or gone absent, you
It's
know?
it's a I'm a Florida licensed realtor, and so there's laws, checks, and balances, and Belize there we just don't have those kind of things. So it's very important to use professionals, have someone that has a responsibility to you. For example, I'm an accredited buyer's agent with a fiduciary responsibility to the buyer. Right? You work with me. That's what we have to offer you. But let's go back to the lawyer part. If you don't have somebody that is literally your person, making sure everything is done correctly and doing the title search and following through the process and looking for things that could be a problem ahead of time, it's the only way to do it.
Well, I think that the misconception is, people who travel to Belize say to themselves, "Well, go visit once or go stay there for a while, rent out an area, and then make a decision to purchase," right? Or
Right.
maybe, or some of the misconceptions are, we don't need an attorney because in the U.S. we didn't need an attorney for a real estate transaction. Why would we need one here in Belize if it's just paperwork and we think we're smart enough that we can do it ourselves? I mean, like,
That's true. And no disrespect, quite frankly intended, But I tell people, don't leave your brain at the border. The reason you may not have needed an attorney in the United States is you were buying a house, right? You had a realtor involved. You had a realtor involved on the other side. They have a license to lose if something does wrong. You have a board to contest to if something was wrong. There's some actions that can be taken. There is insurance you can tap into. There are a lot of checks and balances, and you use a title company. So literally, those are the checks and balances. We do not have those in Belize. And the way that you make sure that you have that is to use a properly vetted attorney.
Yeah, I know that a lot of people are going to Facebook right now and they're asking questions. Here's what I would like to do. So if you're watching this right now, what I encourage you to, whether you're watching this on Facebook, on YouTube, on LinkedIn, or maybe you're seeing this on a tweet, type your question here. We want to see what we can answer specifically. Now, I'm not going to pretend to be the attorney. That's why we've got our our good friend Ryan gonna share with some things. But at least this way, he'll have an idea and some understanding, kind of where you're coming from. And then this is also recording, so when people kind of go back, we can continue this conversation going. Before we get in, because I'm so excited to bring Ryan on here, before we get into this, I want to share the things that we've done in San Pedro last week and the week before that I think is relevant to all of Belize. And this is part of a campaign to bring the community of Belize businesses together. So if you've been on the Facebook page, I Buy Belize, you'll see a bunch of videos of business owners talking about why their place is the best place to come to, right? What makes their place different. It was kind of fun because we coached them into creating the best video and then did the editing and then put it up on Facebook page. So if you haven't seen your video, I would go take a look. Like, you're probably wondering, gosh, where's my video? We have a bunch of these, right? So stay tuned. We're going to get your video out there, and please do share it actively on social media. Now, Macarena, this is the moment that we've been waiting for. I know that Ryan will give, when we bring him on, he's going to give a quick little introduction about himself. But I'd like for you to introduce the person that Ryan is, right? Because I think that lends to the trust and the confidence that our people have in him. And I don't think that he will just go over. He won't even go into that, because he won't self promote himself that way. But I want you to share just a little bit about the person of Ryan is before we bring him on.
Well, so there's a lot of background with being able to use a firm specifically in Belize, and I'm the broker of Keller Williams Belize for the country, and therefore every transaction I see the paperwork, see the process, follow what's going through with it, make sure there's, everything's being done seamlessly, right? So we can have good information about all these different closing firms, correct? So vetted information is really important. I always say very good people know very good people. It's just the truth. You're known by the people you surround yourself with. Well, attorney Ryan Robel and his office have been a pleasure to work with because they follow up, they follow through, they actually have really a good attention to detail that is really needed. You're buying in a foreign country. You want to make sure someone is really looking after you. They're not just doing the transfer of title, which is important, obviously, but it's all those steps beforehand that are very imperative to be done completely correctly and not anything sloppy. Not that anyone's sloppy. I'm not saying anything. I'm just saying you want somebody, a firm that is really attention detail oriented. Ryan won't tell you this, but he is actually licensed in 3 different places in the United States. Yep, as an attorney. Number 2, in Jamaica as an attorney, was called the bar there, and in Belize. So wow, kind of like a triple play. That's pretty fascinating to me. So anyhow, without further ado, I think we bring the man of the hour and let him share his information. He won't tell you how fabulous their firm is. I surely will, because people are timid that way, right? But I can give him kudos enough that I would bring him on the show and stand shoulder to shoulder with him. So go ahead.
Yes, Ryan Robel, everyone, welcome.
Hi, everybody. Hi, thank you for that introduction, Macarena. Good to see you, Doug, and happy to be here with you on the show.
Awesome. Well, we appreciate it really. And it really is interesting for me because, doing this business, I've been in Belize 18 years, and the things that I have seen could make their own basically book on what to look out for, what not to do, what in God's name to expect possibly in a transaction. And it still is never gets old because there's always something different. And I'm sure you see that in all the transactions that you handle, there's always something different. So I know that I had shared ahead of time that it's really important to have someone in your corner. But before we do any of that business stuff, can I ask you some personal stuff?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh,
Please.
he gave me permission to do it. I know how I came to Belize, right? To teach for 2 weeks. And I just felt that Belize was for me. I'm like, what you resist persists. I'm moving. That's it. And I did it with 10 animals and 2 kids. And you know that story, I think. But
Sure.
what drew you to actually move to Belize?
I was introduced to Belize very early on when I was in university in Western New York, in Buffalo, actually, where I'm from originally. I met some friends from Belize. They're still good friends to this day. And they, again, introduced me to the country in kind of the mid to late 90s. I had been spending some holidays, Easter vacations, Christmas vacations here. And I realized over time, and this is before I moved here, of course, that, wow, I think Belize would be a great place for me to relocate, start a career, and, live life. And I've been here going on 18 years myself with no regrets whatsoever. Happy to be here, and happy that I had that introduction to Belize way back when.
So hold on a second. You've been in Belize 18 years. I moved March 9th, 2004. When did you move to Belize?
It was April 2005. So we're almost, I guess we're right around there. Yeah.
How funny. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah.
Very, very interesting and unique. Yeah.
It's interesting to hear people's journey of what drew them to Belize.
Sure.
What was the draw? Because there's a lot of countries in the world, right? But why
Yeah,
Belize?
absolutely. Why Belize? Again, part of it, I had planned and intended to be here throughout my education. So I did a lot of study abroad, both in university or bachelor's level, as well as law school. And I went to law school in New York State as well. Especially there was a special study abroad program that I took during law school that was sponsored by Florida State University, actually. And it was at the University of West Indies, Cave Hill campus in Barbados. And that was my first kind of introduction to Commonwealth Caribbean law, the law that is practiced and recognized here in Belize. And at that point, again, I got, better feelings about the fact that I think that I could start a career. And Belize I was already familiar with, as well as other places in the English-speaking Caribbean. But it was another building block, another step, and another kind of road sign that led me and directed me to this country a significant amount of years later.
So it's just, to me, it's fascinating that you chose Belize too, and it is English speaking, of course, right? But it is interesting for you to just decide that that's where you're going to hang your hat, right? Your license, your hat, both things, right?
Sure. Yes.
And to make that move, I mean, that's a big leap, right? But
It's an enormous leap, absolutely. Yeah.
But it's English speaking, and when you feel it, and again, you don't want to resist it because it's just going to persist, right? And I think you made a good call.
I think so too. I'm happy with my decision. And like I said, I have no regrets.
Okay. So I wanted to share something with you before I ask you the next question. I had a sale recently with a seller. I had their listing, and the buyer's agent brought me a contract, and they wanted to use their own lawyer in the United States to hold the money, do the escrow and all those things. And I said, I talked to my sellers and I gave them the advice that that's not acceptable because you had just talked about Commonwealth law, right?
Yeah, sure.
Belize is Commonwealth law. It's not U.S. law. And you know the difference because you're licensed, obviously, in the States and in Belize.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. We have our own laws. I mean, the number one reason why that's inappropriate is because that American attorney is not licensed to practice law in this jurisdiction. As you know, Macarena, just because someone is licensed to practice law in Florida doesn't allow them or provide the opportunity for them to get up, move to California and practice law. There are bar exams. There are licensing regimes. We have that as well here in Belize. So, a foreign attorney, it would be inappropriate and illegal for them to operate and provide legal services here in Belize. We do have a Legal Professions Act that governs the profession of law, the practice of law. And essentially, if you are unlicensed, you are committing a crime, and there's jail time as well as financial penalties. So that would be my number one reason. Number two reason is, yes, our laws are vastly different than other jurisdictions, the United States included. There are a lot of similarities indeed, because we're all based on, or at least the English-speaking world is based on English common law. So the basics, contract law, real property law, criminal law for that matter, the classes that I took in the first year of law school in New York are very similar to those classes that are taken in England, entry level, call them 101 classes, or Jamaica, where the law school exists for this region, in fact. So the basics, the foundation is the same. But then as we get, as time goes on and statutes and different pieces of legislation are passed, we're vastly different. So there's some really significant differences in Belizean law as opposed to New York law, Florida law, the law over in the UK for that matter as well.
Well, I would just thank you for that free legal advice you just gave everybody, because it was
problem.
My sellers, refused, thanks to my advice to them, going, we're not doing that, and this is why. And the sale went through, but it was done correctly, properly, and it just followed all the rules like it needed to. Okay, so back to my personal question.
Sure.
What surprised you about moving to Belize? What were you not expecting, or that was just surprising?
I think back to one of my earliest visits to Belize. Might not have been when I actually permanently relocated, but I had a significant amount of experience in the Caribbean, in Latin America prior to coming to Belize. I traveled quite a bit in my teens. I had certain expectations built up when I go to another country. There's a lot of similarities throughout the Caribbean and Latin America, and a lot of differences as well. One of the things that surprised me in Belize was the friendliness of the people and the lack of aggressiveness. So I don't want to name certain countries that maybe are a bit more aggressive than others, or a bit more dangerous than others, less friendly than others. But Belize is so friendly, and there was a certain lack of aggression that as I walked out of the airport the first time I remember, I was prepared for, call it the onslaught that you face in other countries, where people, taxi men wanting to help you, everybody kind of tugging you in 2 directions, 3 directions at once.
That's true.
That overwhelming feeling of, I am in a different land and this is a little bit too much. I didn't feel that in Belize. It was so refreshing. Everyone is very helpful, again, friendly, and it's very rare that you bump up into someone that is aggressive to a unreasonable or uncomfortable level. So that was something that was pleasantly surprising to me, my early days in Belize, the friendliness.
That's interesting. Yeah, it is a friendly country. And I even find out when somebody has like a challenge with someone, they're like really quick to not like even, aggress or talk about that. They're like, we still just get along. And it reminds me of, I went to a very small, private all girls school for high school. So you may not have really liked someone in that, 60, people group, but you certainly just figured out how to get along and just made it happen. Right. And then those things filter and go away. And you actually realize we always have more similarities and differences anyway. So what the heck?
I think you might be onto something there. I mean, there's, Belize, we're a small country. It's not overpopulated. And perhaps that leads to it. We all have to live together. And here's another surprising thing, if I can add another one. The fact that there are so many different ethnicities, races, people, nationalities, and everybody gets along. There's no ethnic strife in this country. And again, it's something that's just very pleasant and refreshing.
That's a really good point. It's kind of like we walk into stores and like if the Chinese person is helping you behind the counter, you say, "Hey Chino, can you hand me that?" Right? And so and I walk out of the store and I'm like, "Hey Gringa, have a great day." No one's being rude to each other. We just don't know each other's name, and we're like, "Hey, we don't want to like not be a polite and acknowledge each other." So we're not caught up in those kind of things. So let's go on to something that is very important when you're consulting a client. Let's say that you want somebody, they're wanting to move, they want to do a business, they want to have a conversation with you, and they can schedule this time with you to do that, right?
Yes.
Ahead of time. What do you think that you feel is very important to share with them if they're looking and thinking of moving to Belize?
Yeah, sure. I think one of the most important things that I would get across to somebody that's considering a move to Belize is, first of all, don't believe everything you read online, Facebook, social media. I mean, there's a lot of mistruths. There's a lot of just bad information out there. Another thing would be, don't believe everything you hear as well. Check the sources. Ask for other opinions. I quite often in those calls, Macarena, those initial consultations, I am dispelling myths for the most part. No, what you've heard is not true. I don't know where you got that from. Well, we got it off of Facebook. There's a lot of people that claim to be experts out there, but they're really spreading some false information. So I guess to boil that down, don't believe everything that you read or ignore everything you hear about Belize. Check your sources and get second opinions because you may be operating under false information.
And this is something I have to concur with you 100% is that, I want to deal with someone that has a reputation to protect and they have something to lose. They were going to tell you the truth. They're not just trying to sell you something, because there's a big difference between being sold and being serviced. I want someone to take care of me. I want to be protected. I want service. Right? I don't want to be sold something. I don't. There's complete.
Sure.
I was just talking to the agents earlier in the morning on a call that we had. You don't want to be. People don't want to be sold, right?
No.
We want to be serviced. And when you're moving to Belize, looking to buy in a foreign country, you really need to make sure you're having service with people that really do give a darn about you, right?
I agree. I completely agree.
Yeah.
I mean, moving on from that, or just adding a bit to that. I mean, here at Robel and Company, Attorneys at Law, and if anybody wants more information about us, our website is lawbelize.bz. We think we can offer that client, that person that's looking to relocate, more than just legal advice. I mentioned before, I'm originally from Buffalo, New York. We have other expats in the office. I can provide some legal advice as well as advice just how to avoid pitfalls, some of the uncomfortable situations that I've experienced over the years. I really try to help my clients to avoid them. So yes, certainly we'll protect you from a legal angle, but also we probably have some decent expat advice on how to live in Belize and things to avoid. Watch out for these particular obstacles that you probably may encounter, because I certainly have, and probably you have as well.
I have, and I will say that I really, when I moved in 2004, I never thought I was smarter than the people that lived there that I were trusted sources. So, for example, David the Scotsman, who was married to a Belizean woman that I had met before I actually moved, when I came to teach the first 2 weeks, literally gave me good advice. Who was my mechanic? Who's a great mechanic? Who's the doctor? Who is the best person to fix my weed eater? These are 3 actual instances, but they were the same people, by the way, that I use today. So I didn't go and ask 10 different people. I found one vetted source. I could ask the information, and I just went with that. And I'm very loyal. So I want to know I'm using the right people for things, right, ahead of time. So let's go back to what you had talked about. You're moving, like to Belize, and you've seen a lot in 18 years, right? What do you think was one of the biggest changes that you've seen since actually moving?
Over all these years, I think one of the biggest changes would be modernization, especially as it relates to infrastructure and internet speeds, bandwidth, Wi-Fi. When I first moved to Belize, the roads were far from the best. Internet was far from the fastest speeds. And over these last 18 or so years, I've really seen some significant improvements in all of that I'm mentioning. Certainly infrastructure, roads, both the highways. I'm speaking to you from Belize City right now. We have fantastic streets in the city, and it wasn't that way. And that's something that happened within the last 10 years or so. The Hummingbird Highway is just spectacular these days as far as a really modern highway going through the Mayan Mountains, really beautiful. I always advise my clients to take a drive, get a rental car, and explore, because the roads are fantastic. Infrastructure. As far as internet bandwidth or internet speeds, it was difficult at best when I first moved to Belize, and now here we are in 2022. We have very, very fast internet on our phones, data service. We have fantastic. We have fiber in the majority of the country. So we are the developed world in certain ways, and that is one of the largest things or the biggest changes that I've seen over the years. It's really great how modernization is coming to Belize and making the place an easier place to live, do business, and a safer place. Certainly, and I'm talking about infrastructure, roads, a safer place to live. So I've seen some good stuff and some good significant progress over the years.
We'll take it, right? I know when I first moved, we didn't have, internet like you're talking about. We had that dial up, and you would literally go ding, 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 and wait and, go outside, take a walk, come back, and might be connected. And, the big dishes and all sorts of things. And now it's so fabulous that we have high speed internet. It's just a big difference. We could never have this conversation right now. And certainly, on all of our different locations that we are. So we certainly would have been, it would have been a challenge for sure. One of the things you just spoke about was business. So I have found a lot of clients want to have something to do. Pre-COVID, people were coming to Belize to retire, many people, right? And after COVID, people realized I can work from anywhere. So I want to do a business in Belize, or I want to come in and work, for 6 months and then, go back to, if it's in the very cold part of, like, my family's from Regina, Saskatchewan, right? It's kind of cold, right? So, when it's winter, come to Belize. So tell me, what experience do you have that, people buying a business in Belize, things that they should look for?
Sure.
Your thoughts?
As far as, purchasing an ongoing concern, a business, things to look out for, certainly initially would be check for financials, check for the track record, ask for tax records. You want to make sure, and I guess it harkens back to what I said, things look out for, don't believe everything you hear, do the research, conduct your due diligence. As far as business in Belize, I find Belize to be a relatively straightforward and easy place to set up a business and operate. Our office does assist prospective business persons for Belize. So we do incorporations. We certainly can assist with the purchase of an ongoing concern or an ongoing existing business. And, our office has positioned ourselves well to help at every stage of the game. We're big on relationships. So certainly we want to help you if you're a new arrival, help you secure a piece of real property, land safely, make sure you get good fee simple title. And then afterwards, if you are an active newcomer, to help you out with business. So that may be setting up the business, but also everything that comes afterwards. Setting up a corporate bank account, registering for Social Security if you have employees, registering for tax, a work permit, I should say. We deal with all these matters and really hold our clients' hands from start to finish to ensure they have a smooth transition from wherever they're coming from to Belize as possible.
That's quite very important. I think of these things ahead of time. That brings me to a thought that came to me, is that if someone is looking, let's say they're like, okay, this is, let's say it's, middle of the summer, towards the end of summer, and they're wanting to buy or move, let's say, June of next year. When is the right time, or, too soon, too late? When should they reach out to the firm, to you all, to say, let's have a conversation about, how do we hold it? What's title is best, all those kind of things. What's your advice on that?
Well, for somebody that's considering Belize and wants to, kind of collect more information to determine whether or not Belize is right for them, can't be too early. Have a call. A lot of the consultations that we provide are complimentary. We like to build relationships. So maybe you're considering Belize or comparing, contrasting it against other places. I'd love to talk to you and answer questions. I want to make sure that you have the right information, the truth, as opposed to some of those mistruths that are out there on social media. As far as kind of a time that you certainly should speak to an attorney as it relates to maybe the purchase of real property, of a piece of land or a home, certainly before you sign anything, certainly before any money leaves your wallet. I think that is a perfect time to retain the services of a licensed professional that's going to look out and protect your interests.
Yeah, we had someone that actually was like, "Well, can't your firm hold my money?" I'm like, "No, we don't hold people's money. We don't. You need an attorney to hold the money in an escrow, a vetted escrow account. We don't do holding money." And they're like, "Yeah, but we know you, we trust you." But I'm like, again, then work with the people that we know and we trust, because we don't hold your money. And so you're right. Before you send any money, for goodness sakes, know who you're dealing with. And, one of those things that we talk about, is the safety. How safe is it to send your money and those kind of things? We always ask people to make a call to whoever requested them to send money to verify that email came from them, right? What do you recommend?
It is something that's becoming more prevalent these days. These scam artists that are essentially hijacking email accounts and putting in their own bank account information to divert funds. It is quite dangerous, and we're dealing with some large dollar amounts at times when we're talking about some real property sales. How our office has combated that danger is that we actually we have an escrow release form that we ask our clients to print out, to sign, and have it notarized or signed in front of a justice of the peace, essentially certified, then scanned as a PDF and sent back to us. We do not accept wire transfer details with a mere email. It's too dangerous these days. So some of our clients are saying, "Oh, do I really have to get it notarized?" Well, you really do, because we want to protect your money. We don't want anybody to get in between you, the client, and us, the attorney, to divert your funds. And we found this to be a rock solid way to keep that information private. It's not in the body of an email. It's not something that's easily hijacked, for lack of better words. Again, a scanned PDF that's been recognized, notarized, certified. Then we operate. Then we're doing releases from escrow. So it is kind of an additional step. It may be a tidbit of a hassle, but it's for safety purposes. We're protecting your money.
So where your money's flying off to, no pun intended, right? You literally know that it's going to go to your account, escrow account. It's going to be safe. And, that's means protection. And you know what? Whether someone's buying a $5,000 lot or they're buying a $1 million house or property, it doesn't matter. No one has extra money to just throw away, and because they didn't make a proper decision ahead of time. And you can only help literally in the beginning. So I agree with you. You're saying, before you send any money, make sure you retain somebody, professional to really follow through the whole thing.
Absolutely. I'd like to say one more thing about that, about money, and how our office protects our clients' money and deals with specifically real estate transactions. We do have an escrow account. We are licensed attorneys. Our United States dollar escrow account is held at Wells Fargo Bank in the United States. So for a lot of our clients, certainly those in North America, it's as easy as an ABA or domestic wire transfer. We're not talking about a SWIFT or international transfer. The funds typically are staying in North America, not coming down here to Belize unless we have to comply with law. But it's yet another way that we preserve our clients' money and keep it as safe as possible. Again, in our attorney escrow account at a bank in North America, in the United States, Wells Fargo Bank.
Well, that does give an extra layer of protection, and especially, for people that are in the North Americas, to know that it's held, safely. So going back to someone buying a property, a lot of foreigners buy property in Belize and decide to move or invest in Belize. So when they do that, there's, we've seen different challenges of people not having they have a U.S. will or they have a Canadian will. But what is your suggestion, and what have you seen with them when they don't have a Belize will?
My suggestion is for anyone that has assets on, when I say anyone that is not a Belizean citizen, resident, if they own property here, if they have a vehicle, if they have a golf cart, if they have a bank account, it is far better to have a Belizean will for those specific assets which reside here in Belize, as opposed to have a will that's been executed in some other jurisdiction, Canada, the UK, Germany, United States for that matter. It costs less and it's far more efficient to probate a Belizean will for Belizean assets than it would be to bring a foreign will here to be essentially recognized. That takes a lot longer. It's far more expensive as it relates to legal fees. We are doing this all through the Supreme Court of Belize. So anyone that has, again, assets on the ground in Belize, I always suggest a Belizean will. Again, specifically for those assets that are located here in Belize. And I should also say that there's nothing preventing someone to have more than one will. So if someone has assets in the United States or Canada, as well as assets here in Belize, they could have two separate wills. The language of those wills would be specific. Again, the Belizean will would be specific for Belize-based assets. It should not impact any other wills that are dealing with assets held in other countries. The Canadian will, under this example, would specifically be for assets in Canada and make mention of the fact that this will should not impact any assets that I may have in other countries, Belize included. There is nothing in the law that prevents multiple wills. And as long as we're very specific with the drafting, that there's no confusion, that is the best way, in my opinion, to deal with family planning, future planning, estate planning.
Which a lot of people don't think about and don't do. And it's really quite a sticky wicket later.
Yes.
We've had different clients that were selling properties and things weren't done in advance. So it makes it a challenge to later fix things. So again, it's always better to do it right in the beginning.
Absolutely. And Macarena, there's other ways to title property to plan one's estate. Certainly, we advise Americans as far as taking title in different forms, different corporate forms, companies that can make things easier as far as estate planning purposes to carry on a legacy. That's what our office does. And again, if any of your viewers would like more information in the future, lawbelize.bz is our email address. info@lawbelize.bz is the email. We do offer free probate guides, estate guides, as well as free real estate guides. So drop me an email or investigate our website if you have any additional interest after the show.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And so you just brought up about real estate advice, right? So What is something, I know there's probably a list of these, but what's something that comes to mind that you think is important for people to think of before they buy a property in Belize?
There's quite a few things to take into consideration. I would say one would be make sure you have good people behind you that are protecting your interests. Check credentials, do your due diligence. One thing about Belize, it's, again, I mentioned before, relatively small population, small place. Everybody kind of knows everybody. And it's a place where reputation is very important because it is very easy to soil one's reputation. Near impossible here in Belize to repair that reputation once you're kind of labeled as somebody that doesn't operate on the up and up. So I would say make sure that you check on the people that you're doing business with, check their track record. That's one. The other thing that I would tell people that are considering purchasing real estate in Belize, Doug mentioned it earlier. It's a good idea to really experience Belize. Come down and see it with your own eyes. Walk around, investigate the country. Some people buy before they even set foot in Belize, and they have a great time and a great experience. Some people buy before they set foot in Belize, and it wasn't for them once they eventually get here. I'm big on this kind of do your research, do your due diligence, collect as much information and confirm that information. And I think you'd be, a more educated buyer. You'll know more. You'll be in a better position for being happy in the long run.
Great advice. I'm not a proponent of buying without seeing it. And I've had to do it several times and I don't like it. I had a bail bondsman, a very big name bail bondsman from the US. And so anyhow, he in 2005 wanted to buy a piece of property in Dangriga on the sea. I went down, I did videos. We didn't have WhatsApp video and those kind of things. And we didn't have cellular that had that service. So I literally had to go take the videos and send it to him. And I tried everything to talk him out of not coming first to see it. And he says, no, I'm good with what you got. I'm good. I want it. And he bought it, and he came in 6 months later with his wife to look at it. And I had nail biting going on because I was in DC with my family for Christmas and scared to death. He's coming to town. He's this really big name, and he's coming in country for the first time. Thankfully, Brad, his name is Brad, he definitely loved the property. Absolutely. And I was so thankful, but I don't suggest it because I might say that the view is gorgeous and someone else might look at it and go, well, those palm trees are in the way. Well, palm trees don't bother me. I love the view and I want the palm trees. I'm good with that. But it's a change of environment for people. So I do recommend, you come and look at it for sure. We had a German couple. I think you may even know this couple. A German couple moved with their dog, flew and chartered a flight and came into Belize and hadn't seen the property, bought it. They're ecstatic, but you can't, I don't recommend it still. Thank God those two scenarios specifically worked out well, but you're right.
Yeah, we have some great experience in this office as well. During the pandemic when our airport was closed, we did what we call smart viewing. So we, as independent eyeballs, were showing people properties, not as a real estate agent, but just actually as an independent third party. This is what I see. Here's my report. We did that for a client that came from the New England states. He's here to this day, satisfied. He bought not necessarily sight unseen, but saw the property through our office's eyes, and it worked out. So sometimes it works out. But as far as advice is concerned, again, conduct your own research, come down, experience the country. The majority of people are going to love it. But yeah, I think that on the ground knowledge there. I think
you do, and I concur that the majority of people do end up loving it, right? Yeah. They usually love it because they've come and seen it. So, I have to ask you something funny. I love funny things. Okay. What is like the funniest thing that you had to get used to about living in Belize?
Let's see. I think, it relates to something I said a little bit earlier. Everybody knows everybody in Belize. So it's a small community. That's a good thing because there's a lot of compassion, friendliness, and things of that nature. But it's funny because as you meet people, wait, where you're coming from the city? Oh, you know this guy? That's my cousin. That kind of thing is funny. How we're a country of over 400,000 people, but how small it's a family environment. So I think that's kind of funny that nearly everybody knows everybody. There's what is that thing? The 7 degrees of connection or what have you. I think it's probably like a 3 or 4 degrees of connection or even smaller here in Belize. Not to be seen as a negative thing, certainly a funny thing. Something that was funny to me when I came down.
It kind of does remind me of being like in a small town, back in the, 40s and 50s in the, in the US where I grew up, right? It's just everybody knew everybody. And if you live in a small town still to this day, you know everybody. But we have a whole country like that. And that is really fascinating. I mean, people will be like, I'll come into San Ignacio. I'll have been in the Florida and I'll come into San Ignacio. People go, oh, we heard you're back in town. I'm like, I just landed last night. How in God's name did you know? Because I don't post on Facebook that I
also worked at the airport. That's how. But yeah, it's funny.
It's really true. And I have found people in Belize, you had shared that people are friendly. Mm-hmm. And I have found personally, and I don't know if this is your experience, that people, if you're nice and compassionate, Belizeans are very good at reading people. And it's a great quality if you're an open book, right? It's very yummy. And I love that word, yummy. So when I had a client that complained about, I went to immigration and they were blah, 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 blah. And I said to the wife, I said, so I've been immigration many times over 18 years and they are lovely, but I bring who I bring, right? You bring yourself, right?
Absolutely.
So tell me what your thoughts are on that.
I think you're spot on. I mean, my thing, probably something that's very important to share with our viewers, people considering Belize, is patience. Have patience. North Americans probably have heard, you're south of the border, things move a little bit slower. Well, from the United States, you're south of 2 borders, so it moves a little bit slower, and you have to have patience. Especially, you're talking about immigration, interacting with government types. Have patience. It's a different culture. If you have kind of a bad, fast-paced American attitude with people in Belize, you are not going to get a great attitude or great service back. If you come with compassion and friendliness and patience, once again, you're gonna be well received, and you're gonna get along with everybody, and there's gonna be no problems. A lot of people over the years that I've seen that had bad experiences in Belize, and perhaps even left Belize after some time, they didn't get that. They didn't get that they're in a different country, that things don't always move at the same pace as they might move in Los Angeles or New York City. You're in a different country, and the majority of us are pleased with that. We're happy to be in a slower paced culture. I consider to be healthier. I think it's extending my lifespan for the lack of stress, the lack of the rat race. Back to the point, have an understanding of local culture. Be patient, be nice, to kind of blow your top and become irritated, impatient. You're not going to get very far. You're not going to get the reaction or the response that you're looking for. So I think that's important to share. Patience.
I think that's a great tidbit to remember. They say if you don't come with patience, you're going to learn it in Belize, right?
Absolutely.
But not everybody does learn it. Not
No,
everybody does. And then then probably Belize is everything for some people, and I happen to be one of the people who certainly you are for sure. I know
Absolutely.
Doug is, but it's not for everyone. So you have to figure out if it's like. Right, Doug? Hey, Doug. He's just listening. He's like listening to us talk, right? Like a little mouse. But so literally, it's like I forgot he was there only and he pops back in. But so really, it's true though. Patience is really awesome to remember to have. But why move to Belize and have the same thing where you came from?
Yes.
You moved to Belize because you're drawn to the culture, to the people, the style of living, the way of life, the way of food. Don't even get me on the food subject. The best.
Fantastic.
Just saying.
Mm-hmm.
So literally, enjoy what you've got. And I was just talking to a couple that's retired in Belize, and we've been helping them for years, and we've got their property and all those things. And we're helping them, their process to move. And they're like so excited because he said something poignant to me. He said, I am getting a new life and I get to learn all new things. He says, I swear I'm going to absolutely extend my life another 25 years because my brain cells, it's refreshing, it's new, and it's a new environment. I have to learn my doctor. I have to learn where I'm going to do all of these things. He says, everything is new. And he says, and I'm looking forward to that because I don't want to just, be bored.
Yeah, absolutely. A new chapter, a new lease on life. I've heard that before. Fantastic.
And I reminded him, you become really popular when you move to Belize because all your friends and family want to come and see you.
That's very true.
And the wife said, you know what? I bet we'll get more family members to finally come visit us because right now where they live in Oregon, they don't come too often. So I said, yes, but now you're in Belize. They're going to come and visit you. You'll be very popular. What were you going to say, Doug?
Exotic latitude to draw in the family. Yeah.
Well, Belize is kind of like Missouri, right? So anytime you travel outside of Missouri in the U.S. or other areas of the world, you'd say you're from Missouri, like people just wouldn't know like where that was, right? I think that's the same thing with Belize. Like if you look at the Google searches, majority of the searches is like, where is Belize? People don't know where it is. And what's so great about you, Ryan, being on the show and Macarena, guiding us is that we get to see kind of what it's like underneath that layer, right? Underneath just whatever you see online, we get to go underneath it and expose that so we can get more people to come down here. Ryan, I appreciate your time, your expertise. You're in the trenches doing the work. So thank you for that.
Very welcome. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah. So everybody, big round of applause. We've got Ryan's link on the, let's see, I'll put this up one more time. If you didn't get it before, it's lawbelize.bz is where his website. I know he also puts out an email newsletter that has a lot of great information. In fact, I saw one link and it happened to be a question someone asked on a Facebook group. So I just posted the link, right? And let Ryan do the interpretation.
Yeah, thanks for that, Doug. Like I said, www.lawbelize.bz. We do have a newsletter that goes out every couple months. It has stuff about the law down here, but it also about life in Belize, expat life, and things to look out for, things that we think may interest our readers. Again, we do have some free real estate guides and estate planning guides that can be obtained through the website, or just send us an email at info@lawbelize.bz. And I really appreciate the invitation to speak to your viewers today. Thanks for inviting me. And well, it's great to be here.
Yeah. Big round of applause for Ryan. Gosh, isn't he awesome?
He's awesome. And,
Yeah.
For me, it's very comforting to get information. You got to do it right the first time. You can't stress that enough. It's really hard. It's kind of like, going to the doctor to get a cast on your leg, right? You want to get it done right the first time. You don't want to have to go and get it done twice.
But maybe. But
maybe what?
No, I don't know. But everyone has an excuse, right?
Right, but so a lot of people say, "Oh, well, not me. I know better," or I know what to look for," and you don't. It's a foreign country, and I moved to Belize, and I watched people make a lot of boo-boos, and I'm like, "Why? You could have completely circumvented that," and I am easily accessible. I'm like, you could have sent me an email, and I could have given you somebody that would have certainly done that properly, or given you advice that would have helped you in the beginning. Same thing with Ryan. He says, get the information in the beginning.
Well, I think that's really great. What I also want to do here real quickly is kind of share some things that we've been working on behind the scenes to help everyone have access to information. And so one of the things, so I'm going to share with you some updates we've made to our website real quick so you can kind of see what's available. We have a trusted businesses page where we've been actually going around almost like the yellow pages. I saw the yellow pages doing this the other day. I'm thinking, gosh, we're doing the same thing, but we're not charging. Where we're going and we're interviewing people and we're creating videos and we're putting it on that. So if you want to be part of this, send me a message on WhatsApp and I'll send you the application. We'll actually show up at your place. We'll record a video and we'll promote you. Also on the tools section of our website, we've added a couple new pages. One is infographics. Now, if you like data, you like to be able to compare different things. Like, is it better to, what's the difference between Canada and Belize, right? Or what's the difference between Costa Rica and Belize? We've included some infographics here on our website that it's an easy, quick way to make some insights. And what's so awesome about this too, just because I love data and love giving people access to these insights, we're also working on this. This is our geospatial page. So when we look at data, we're looking at making insights with regards to real estate transactions in Belize. We want to look at pulling different data sources from different places so that we can provide you, the prospective property owner, information that you wouldn't know of otherwise, because many times you have to go to two different places to find the same information or it's outdated. So what you see on this geospatial page is just the beginning of what we are going to add, some of these insights. So what I would encourage you to do also too, one of the things that we're working on behind the scenes, we're going to make this available on Amazon, is the book, right, where you can download to your Amazon Kindle the questions you didn't know to ask before moving to Belize. So it's not available yet, but it'll be available soon, and we're going to make that special announcement. So, like we said before, if you want to experience Belize, send us a message. We do have people who we work with at different hotels and tours that we can make introductions. We don't get money off of that, like some places would. We just want to make sure that you have the best experience, because that way, you'll want to come back. Macarena, I know that you've been working on a lot of things behind the scenes, and I know that you've been experiencing some, I think some important notes for
Things.
people.
Yeah. So two things. Can I share? Well, maybe my three things. First
Yeah,
thing is thanks for tuning in. Thanks for caring to get new information. And every week we're going to do this to bring you valuable information to share with you. Have some fun with the whole thing. Don't show up if you don't want to have fun, because that's part of Belize. We enjoy where we live. We enjoy the country, and we want to share it with you. The second thing is next week we're going to have about moving to Belize and information on how to do that and what things to look for. And I've got some tidbits that are really important about boo-boos I made when I labeled my boxes moving to Belize. So check into that. And number three, if you're looking at having a business in Belize or wanting to own a business or start a business, please email me, Macarena at KW.com. Could not be any simpler than that. Hey, Macarena, Macarena at KW.com. And I will give you the information, because the American Chamber of Commerce of Belize is it's going to be restarting up, and we've already in process of it. And soon, in about less than a week, we're actually having a meeting that you should attend or think about attending if you're going to do a business or have a business in Belize and work with, Americans, of course. Anyhow, is that good? My top three. Thank you for giving me a time to talk.
Yes. Well, I'll tell you what. We appreciate it today. Each week, we've got somebody special coming up next week, right?
Yep. About moving to Belize.
About moving to Belize. If once you move here, you want to receive stuff, right? You want to get packages, you want to get mail, right? So how does that end up on your doorstep? Because there ain't no Amazon 2-day express shipping.
Or, between 10 and 3 p.m., 10 a.m. and 3 p.m., right? Same day. But there is ways to get those stuff. And there wasn't when I moved to Belize 18 years ago. So stay tuned. Next week, we're going to talk to someone that's going to help us with those questions.
Yeah. Have a great day, everybody.